Okay, so you probably understand what the idea of monopoly. Monopoly is a market where there's one seller. And generally, monopolies are illegal, the ones that are unregulated. Usually, when there's a monopoly situation, there's a government license or a government regulated situation, because if there's just one seller, that seller would have too much power in the market vis-a-vis the customers. That doesn't mean that people don't want to have a monopoly. Okay, but generally, business people don't say the term monopoly in the same sentence as something that they want to have, because that could potentially come back to them in terms of a lawsuit. So they don't want to say that. But what I'm going to say is what we could be aiming for is something I'm calling a temporary monopoly. Okay, one that is short last, one that doesn't last for very long. And when we have this sort of position, we have the ability to charge the prices that we want and have the market share that we want. Mm-hmm. And how do we do that? Well, it's actually relatively easy. I mean, if we have a product or service that's differentiated than other products and services, then in certain respects we have a monopoly, because our product is different. You know, if we want Coke, Coke is it. Yes, there's Pepsi and there's all sorts of other different sorts of cola, but there's only Coke. How about when your product or service becomes the name of the category? Or when your product or service becomes a noun or a verb? Okay? It's a Xerox machine, whether or not it's a Canon or anything else. It's a Xerox machine. Or there's Scotch tape. Or we can Google something. Google has become a verb. And whether we use Yahoo as a search engine or not, we still say Google. Mm-hmm. Most people, when they're talking about flat tablets, they say an iPad, whether or not it's an iPad or not. That's very powerful when people are doing your marketing and branding for you. We could talk about this a little later. There is a danger when your product or service becomes synonymous with the product category. You can run into trouble, and you could potentially lose your trademark on the brand. But that's a subject that we can talk about another time. But the idea is that if we create a product or service that's relatively differentiated from the bunch, okay, we can have pricing power. We have the ability to maintain our prices, maintain our margins. So we want to create a product that's differentiated. The 5 questions: identifiable, reachable, ready, willing, and able. Identifiable, reachable, ready, willing, and able. We need to have answers yes for all of those. So let's say that we take this class, our ideation class here, and we go to Brazil. Now, Brazil is one of the BRIC countries. Brazil, Russia, India, China, the fastest growing, huge economies of the future. So there are many, many, many business opportunities in Brazil. So we go to the big cities: Sao Paulo, okay, Brasilia, and then we kind of end the trip in Rio. We have a really good time. We meet lots of people, and we have some potential opportunities that we need to investigate a little bit further. So as a treat, I have set up a chance for us to spend a day or so with a indigenous tribe in the Amazon. So we take a plane, a seaplane, a motorboat, a canoe, a rowboat, and hike into the Amazon, and we meet this tribe that we're going to spend some time with. We have a very good time. You know, lots of sign language. English isn't very good. Our Their Portuguese is not even very good. They speak their local dialect, but we still manage to get along and do okay. So we're sitting by the fire after dinner, and we're drinking some of the local brew, let's say, and that has made us smile and get a little happy. There's been something that has been kind of weird that we've been thinking about. No one can really put their finger on it, but there's something just not right. But after a few of these drinks, it becomes clear that most of the people in this tribe are very young. And so we think it's kind of unusual that the young people stay in one area and that the old people stay in another area. But, it's not our culture. What do we know? But one person in class is perhaps a little bolder, or you could argue he had a little bit more to drink, asked the question that has been on people's mind: where are all the old people? And so they say, using hand signals, that they will show us. So we get up, we get our torches, because it's very dark in the rainforest, and we go walking. And we think it's really unusual that the old people live in a totally different place. We actually are kind of angry at the guy for making us get up when we were all comfortable. But anyway, we follow into the forest. We walk and walk and walk and walk and walk. Then we reach a spot and it says, here are all the old people. Now we look around and we see nothing. It's kind of a field. Now we're really confused, until we realize that we're standing in a cemetery. All of the old people are dead. When you reach the age of 30, 32, 33, 34, 35, you die. And the reason you die is viral and bacterial infections that come through your feet. And it's because of the humidity. You rot, you get sepsis, you get blood infections and whatnot, and you ultimately die. This kind of puts a downer on the trip as we walk back to the main place where we're staying. And the next day we say our goodbyes, and then we head back to the airport and head back to Sweden. So we're just about to land in Arlanda, and one of the class says, you know what? There's a need there. Someone says, there's a problem there. Someone says, there's actually real pain there. So what we decide to do is not actually go home after the trip, but we go to the KTH Advanced Research Center. You didn't know we had one, but we do. Not too far from the airport. Kind of take a left and go a while and take a right. And anyway, it's up there. And we decide to work on this problem. We work 13 and a half hours a day, 6 days a week, for 2 weeks. That's 160 hours. And we think we have come up with a solution. We think we have come up with a solution that will solve the problem and the pain of these people. We don't really have a name for it yet. Does anybody think of a name? Shoes. Shoes is short, catchy. I think it might catch on. So we've created these shoes as a solution. So the question is there customer space for these shoes? So, identifiable. When we talk about identifiable, are the customers identifiable? And the way I think about it is, can we put our arms around the customers? The more we're able to identify exactly who the customers are, the more likely we're able to create a product and service that meets their needs. That makes perfect sense. So, in this case, is the target market identifiable? Well, absolutely. We actually had literally our arms around them. So yes, identifiable, reachable. Reachable is a question generally of distribution. Can we get our product and service to those that we have identified? And it's a challenge. I mean, remember, we took a plane, a seaplane, a motorboat, a canoe, a rowboat, and hiked into the rainforest. But what we've done is we've cut a deal with some Swedish missionaries that make the trek into the jungle once a month, and they can distribute our shoes. Right, shoes, that's what we call them. So identifiable, yes. Reachable, yes. Ready. Ready is a timing question. Is the target market ready for your product or service? If you want to find ICT products, all you need to do in many cases is go back 10 or 12 years and look at the products and services that were being developed then. Many of those products and services would work today. It's just that we, as internet users at that particular time, many of us were not ready for those products and services. It's a timing issue. You have to be ready to take advantage of opportunities when they're presented. So ready. Are these Indians ready for the product and service? And the answer is yes, they don't want to die. So identifiable, reachable, ready, okay, willing. Willing means, okay, is the customer actually willing to go into their pocket and pay? There are many services that exist online, for example, that are free today because people aren't really willing to pay. Or too small a segment of the population is willing to pay to make the model work. So the question is this group willing? And the answer is, if you can prevent them from dying, yes, they're willing. And the last one is able. Now this one is always left out. Not always, but almost always left out. You've done your market survey, and you're trying to sell a product or service to a relatively high-end consumer group, let's say in Stockholm, and you found one that has 2 cars, you found one that has a summer house, you found one that they go skiing, and blah, blah, blah. So this group has money. You've identified them. And you create a product and service that they want to buy. Okay, you've identified a group. You can get the product and service to them. They're ready. They're willing. And the product flops. No one actually buys it. And you try to find out why didn't they buy it. And it turns out is that they actually don't have any money. Because they have the 2 houses and the 2 cars and the ski trips and blah, 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 they don't have any disposable income. Take another example. Let's say you created a new operating system for a computer that is basically free, that's robust, and it's open so you can make the changes that you want to make, and you try to sell it. You say, we'd love to buy this operating system, but we are committed to this other operating system, and we have 10 gajillion hours, man hours invested in it. We have 10 gajillion dollars or euro invested in the software. So we're not really going to be able to make the switch. Mm-hmm. Or you're selling copy machines. You sell a copy machine that everybody wants, and you try to sell it. And they say, we'd love to buy it, but we have a 10-year contract. Is it possible that you come back in March 1st, 2022? So again, people have to be able. So the question is, are these Indians able to buy our shoes? And the answer is no, they don't have any money. So while we have yes, 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 we have ultimately no, which means we really don't have customer space here. Now, we could argue that we cut a deal with the merchants to bring the religious guys that are coming in, missionaries are coming in. Could we create some sort of deal to get them to be able to pay for it? And the answer is, probably. Probably yes, but strictly speaking, this is not a market. You need to have all 5 questions solved. Identifiable, reachable, ready, willing, and able. Okay, so let's take a break here, and I'll be back shortly.